How's it going, everyone? It's Ben Falcon's Media Corner back again with a brand new video for today. Welcome back to the movie review, aka After I Saw review video for today. This time for this new episode for this series, this is going to be my review on the 2022 biographical drama, and that is Till. Now, this is directed by Chinonye Chukwu. I think is how you pronounce the name. If I say the name wrong, I apologize, but I try my best to basically say her name right for this video. But anyway, this film basically tells the true story of this woman named Mamie Till Bradley, who is played by Danielle Deadwyler, and she has a son named Emmett Till, who is played by Jalyn Hall, and he's 14 years old, and both of these characters have a very strong bond together as mother and son, and they never grew apart from each other until Emmett decides to basically spend 1 week away from his mother, in which he goes to Mississippi to basically visit his cousin, which he does. And once he settles in, he basically has fun with his cousins until he gets involved with an incident involving with a white woman who accuses him of something he did wrong, even though Emmett is not really that kind of person because he's generally a nice person. But he gets kidnapped by these two white men who are extremely racist, and they brutally murder him, which basically this whole murder that they've done is basically a hate crime, which is basically racism. And once Mamie Till finds out about her son's horrific murder, she decides to become an activist and an educator, in which she basically wants to pursue justice for her son's horrific murder. And she's taking this case very seriously because no one else is taking this case very seriously. Like, the white people are not taking this case very seriously because they completely act like it's not a big deal, and they just constantly laugh at the African American people. And for these two men who are charged as well, they just act like it's not a big deal as well. So we see Mamie Till basically trying to seek justice for her son's murder, and while she has a few people who support her and stand by her, which are of course her family and her friends. So that's pretty much the story of Till. Now, since this film is based on a true story, I didn't know much about this whole true story or anything like that because I didn't learn anything about it really because I'm not really a true events kind of person really because I'm mostly of a movie and video game person myself. But once I saw the trailer and the poster for this movie, I was actually looking forward to this movie because this one did look pretty interesting to me. Even though, like I said, since this movie is based on a true story, it's just like I said, the story for this whole story that this film is representing on screen. It's just one of those stories that I'm not that familiar with in the slightest and all that. But once I saw a few people's reviews of this film back in October of last year, we didn't get this film until January this year in the UK. But once after I heard a few people's reviews of this film, and before I was going to go out and check out this film like the day I was going to go and see it, I actually did do a little bit of research on what this whole film is tackling on and all that from its story. Because like I said, I didn't know much about the whole story. But after doing a bit of research about this whole story, it's definitely one of the most shocking stories that's ever happened in the 50s decade. Because this happened back in the 50s era. And for what this whole crime this film is tackling on, this one was tackling on racism, which, you know, we've had a few movies before in the past, in a few decades, that have tackled racism and all that. In which we've had some pretty good movies over the last decade that have tackled that hate crime and all that. And for that kind of hate crime, you know, this kind of hate crime, like, it happened much heavier, like decades ago and all that. Even though in today's time it still happens and all that, but it's not as heavy as in like decades ago, like in the 50s and stuff like that. In which, you know, we've had a few movies before in the past that have tackled that kind of hate crime in those decades, in which some of them have been pretty damn good and all that. But, you know, for today's time where this kind of hate crime still happens and all that, it's just one of those crimes that just makes me really physically sick to my stomach and just makes me just pretty angry and all that because it's horrible and all that. But let's move on from that because I just don't want to go into it because it's really just awful and all that. But anyway, for this movie, I didn't know much of the cast who were in this film and all that. And for the director of this film, I've never seen anything what this director's done and all that. But like I said, this film was released on the 6th of January of this year in the UK, and I went to see it the day it was released. And for my screening, it unfortunately wasn't really much of a full house though. But after watching this whole movie, I gotta say here, guys, this is definitely another one of my favorite films that 2022 has ever released because I thought this film was absolutely fantastic here. And I can easily describe this film being very effective and yet very devastating here. And this is definitely one of the most emotional films that 2022 has ever released here, you guys. Like, there's so much to talk about Till here, guys. Like, the story for this film, I found it genuinely investing and also emotional at the same time. But I mostly found it investing throughout this whole movie. Because I liked how the whole case of Emmett Till was brought into the spotlight and where it leads up to through the trial. And I liked where it leads on from that to the eyes of Mamie Till once we get to see her trying to seek justice for her son's murder and how she takes this case very seriously. when it comes to that in the film, I was remotely hooked and nearly on the edge of my seat for those moments in the film. And I was really rooting for Mamie Till throughout this whole film because I was hoping she was going to see justice for her son's murder and all that. And I liked how she takes this case very seriously, along with people who stand by her in the trial, like her family and friends. And for everyone else around her, like the white people in the film, they just constantly act like this whole case isn't really a big deal. Like, they do that in the film, and they also laugh at them in this movie, which made me hate the white people in this film constantly, because what they did in this film was just downright disgusting. And I liked how the film represents racism on a whole new deep level, even though, because for other films that have tackled this hate crime before in the past, they've done a really damn good job for representing that hate crime on the big screen. But for this film, it goes much deeper into that, and I liked how it represents on a whole new different level here. And I liked how it shows it's very important on how this whole hate crime was like back then, before today's time and all that. And there was never a single dull moment of its story or anything like that. Like, there's never a single scene in the film that tends to drag on or anything like that. Despite the film being 10 hours and 10 minutes, there was never a single problem with its runtime, because this film played out so quickly and all that from its runtime and all that, because, like I said, this whole movie was generally investing throughout, but it's also very emotional at the same time. And we even get to see the criminal side story in the film, which it's mostly in the trial and all that. But once I saw that in the big screen, my reaction to seeing that on the big screen, oh my god, I just honestly felt like Tracy Morgan here, you guys, like from Cop Out. I was just like this when this happened, when I was watching the film.
No. Mm-mm. No. Hell no. I refuse. No.
Yeah, I honestly felt like that when that scene popped up on screen, and I thought at one point I was going to explode like an eruptive volcano because my blood was boiling inside of me, but luckily that didn't happen to me while I was watching the movie. And this movie also has different types of emotions that's been played out here and there in this film. Like, there's emotional scenes in the film that are absolutely tear-jerking to watch, and when it came to those moments for me, it really hit me so hard that I couldn't stop crying my eyes out, because like I said before, this movie is just generally emotional and yet very devastating at the same time because of the subject matter and its storytelling and all that. And this movie also has some shocking moments, which I had my emotions, when it came to those moments, I was just generally shocked with my emotions with this film, because there are some disturbing moments in the film. Like, we get to see the whole aftermath of the murder, which this film doesn't show the whole murder of Emmett Till and all that, which, if it did, it would be very hard to watch. But luckily, this film doesn't show that. We just see the aftermath of the murder, which we get to see his corpse in the film. Once I saw his corpse in the film, I was disturbed as hell. And I would say, after seeing it, it's even more disturbing than any other horror film I saw last year that I thought was absolutely disturbing as hell. And also, the performances in the film, everyone gave top-notch performances here. Like, Danielle Deadwyler, I can definitely say is worthy of an Oscar nomination here, you guys, because she is phenomenal in this film. She gives it all here. She's powerful in the film, and on her emotions in the film. And I was really rooting for this character throughout this whole film, because for what she was doing throughout this whole film, I was just rooting and tooting for her throughout this whole film. And again, she really kicked out of the park for her performance. And again, I can definitely say it's worthy of an Oscar nomination. And as for everyone else in the film, like, you got Whoopi Goldberg in the film, who plays Mammy's mother in the film. Although she's not in the movie that much, but she's great in the film. And everyone else, they were all great for their performances here. And overall, in the end, guys, Till, I thought this film was just generally fantastic. But this is one I can definitely say it's very emotional and yet very devastating at the same time. And this is a film I probably think it won't be for everyone to watch, really, because it's probably a difficult one to watch because of the subject, like the theme and the subject matter and its story and all that. But if you're a fan of like true story films, if you do know about the whole story itself, and if you like any movies that tackles any kind of subject matter and theme and all that involves like crimes or anything like that, this is definitely one you don't want to miss out. And I can also definitely say this is definitely one of my favorite films of 2022, and also one of the best movies that's based on a true story that I've seen for this decade so far. So that's pretty much what I have to say about Till. I'm going to give Till 5 out of 5. Yep, not a single nitpick to pick out with this one, because I absolutely dig everything about this movie, even though, like I said, this is definitely one that's not going to be for everyone really at all because of the subject matter and its theme and the story and all that. But like I said, this is definitely one you don't want to miss out on the big screen. And if it is playing a local cinema near you, I highly suggest you check out this film on the big screen. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching my ACAF for a Soul review on Till. Let me know what you think of this movie. If you have seen this already, if you just recently checked out this film, did you absolutely love this movie, or was this not really one you couldn't handle with? As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and this has been Falcon's Media Corner signing off.